Hello everyone, it's Asatta Games. Today I will be showing how you can implement a pause screen to your game. For this I will have this game where you can walk around and interact with environment. This is from the State Machines tutorial. Now to add a pause screen, we first will need a pause screen. So for this, on a folder, right click, new GUI and name it pause menu. After you create the GUI on the fonts, right click, add fonts and select the default font or the font you want to use. If you have pause icons or other icons for your UI, then you can on the textures add textures and select the atlas you want to use. I don't have it, so I will be using simple boxes. Under the notes, I have two boxes. One is pause button. This will be visible when we are playing the game. And the other is pause screen, which will be visible when we pause the game and will be hidden when we continue. Having a common parent will allow us to hide these four nodes when we pause the game. First, right click, add box and name it pause button. Place it on left top corner or wherever you want. Right click to pause button, add text and set the text to pause. You can set the text here. You need to select a font to be able to use the text. If you want to increase the font size, you can use scale 1.5 to 1.5 maybe. This is all we need to do with pause button. If you want to change the color of it, you can set it from here. And the alpha value is how transparent it is, so you can change it. I will set the color to black and set the alpha to 1. On the notes, right click, add box and name it pause screen. Under it again, add another box and this will be the background we have. It will be a semi-transparent background, so we will be able to see the UI elements better and we'll know the game is paused. I've set its size and set its position to the middle of the screen since my display size is 960 to 640. I have used half of their values. I have set its alpha value to 0.3. Then on the pause screen I have added a text and set its text to paused. Set its X position to 480 to get it on the middle. These are mostly visual changes, so you can set them as you want. Add another node under the pause screen, a box and name it sound button. I have added a text under it named sound text. On the sound button I have set its color to a dark blue. Copy and paste the sound button, move it downwards and set its name to continue button. We also have another text on it, but I didn't change its name because we will not be using this. But we will be accessing the sound text because when we set the sound to off, we will need to change this text to sound off or on. And that's basically how we set our UI. We will need to control this with a script. For this, on the scripts, right click, new GUI script, name it pause menu. After that, on the GUI, select the script you want to use. Let's take a look at the pause menu script. On the init, we acquire input focus, so we will be detecting mouse clicks and keyboard presses. On our subtable, I have created another table named nodes, and nodes have a bunch of nodes we will be accessing. First is the pause screen. We will use GUI.getNode to get the pause screen, and we will get pause button, sound text, and continue button with the same way. Then on the subtable, I have also created two new variables. One is paused and the other is sound on. The game will not be paused at first, so it's set to false. And I want the sound to play, so it's set to true. I start playing the music using sound.play. Let's go to our main collection. On it, we have a node named music and it has a sound component. I have selected the OGG sound I want to use. Set the looping so it will not stop when it's finished. I have set its gain to 0.4 so it won't be too loud. We basically play the sound with this. Then I use set pause state to unpause the game. Set pause state function is above the init because if you want to call a function, you need to initialize it before you call it. On the set pause state function, we basically do two things. We change the visibility of nodes. The first one, if we are paused, set the pause screen to true and pause button to false. So we won't be seeing this button when we pause, and when we continue, we will not be seeing this pause screen. Then we have two methods. One is toggle pause state. When we call this, we first toggle the pause state. If it is true, we set it to false, and vice versa. If our pause state is true, then that means we need to stop the game. But for this, we will need to make some changes because we can't pause the main collection. We will need to have the game under another collection. For this, right click, new collection, name it game scene. Under the game scene collection, we will have all the game components, so copy all of them and paste. On the main, delete all of them, right click, add a game object, name it game scene loader, because we will be using this to load our game, and for this add a collection proxy. Select the game scene collection, but with this way it won't just load the game scene. For this, we will need to attach a script to control it. On the scripts, right click, new. Script, name it scene parent script. It will be the parent of our scene. Right click to game scene loader and add component file, select the scene parent script. On the script, we first load the collection proxy we have, and when a collection is loaded, it is not directly visible, so when it's loaded, we will need to initialize it and enable it. After loading is done, it will send proxy loaded message, and when we get it, we basically initialize and enable the proxy. Also, as you can see, we have an acquire input focus line, but we don't have an on input function. We have this line because if you want to be able to get input focus, your parent also needs to have it, otherwise player will not be able to move around because his parent doesn't have input focus. On the game scene collection, let's add a game object and name it GUI. Right click, add component file and select the pause menu.gui to add the pause menu to your game. Now let's go back to our GUI script. Since we don't run our game on the main collection, we can now use set time step message to pause or unpause the game. If we need to pause, then set the time step to 0, and if we need to continue, then set the time step to 1. Since our collection is under the main and game scene loader, we use that URL. At the end, we call the setPausState function, so the UI will also be updated accordingly. We have another function, toggle sound state. We toggle the sound on variable, and we use the opposite of the sound on variable to pause the game, because when sound on is true, not true will be false, so we will not be pausing the sound and play it. We also use set the text of the sound text. This basically checks if sound on is true, then does this, otherwise set it to sound off. Now on the onInput function, we check if pause action is taken and we just pressed it. Then we toggle the pause state. Let's go to our input binding file. Under it, I have a pause action binded to P key. So when we press the P, it will toggle the pause state. Now I have created an if to check if left click is just pressed. Left click is basically the left button of the mouse. If this is true, and when we do that, we are on the pause button, then we toggle the pause state. GUI.pickNode gets first a node and position of the action and checks if the action is in the area of the node, so it's pretty useful. Then we check if sound button, this one, is pressed, and we also check if self.paused is true, because if you don't have this and while the game is running you click around somewhere here, even though this is not visible, you can still toggle the sound. We don't want this to happen. We want to be able to interact with the pause screen only when we pause the game. That's why we check if we pause the game. If we are paused and sound button is pressed, then we toggle the sound. If continue button is pressed and we are paused, then we toggle the pause state. Now if I use Ctrl B to start the game and use P key, I can pause the game, and as you can see player stopped playing animation, and I can toggle off with the P key again. I can use the pause button too. I can turn the sound on and off, and I can use the continue button to continue. But on my game, my camera was supposed to follow the player, but as you can see that's not happening. I can still do other things, but camera is not working. If you also had your game on the main collection and use this new approach to load the collection, there may be some problems occurring. For this, let's go to our console, and as you can see, our camera parent throws an error and says I cannot access the player. That's because my previous approach was using the main collection to get the player, but now I don't have to use it, and since both my camera parent and the player are under the same collection, we basically don't need to specify the collection. So get position will look for the player under the same collection. If this approach doesn't work for you and you need a more dynamic approach to get the URL of your game objects, then you can watch my change scene tutorial to learn how you can get URLs with a more dynamic approach using modules. And this is all I need to do. If I continue the game, now everything works. I can interact with everything. I can pause, turn the sound on and off, continue the game. And that's it. That's basically how you can add a pause screen to your default game. I will share this project on my itch.io page. You can go and download it from there. You can find the link on the comment section. If you have any question or recommendation, you can again ask on the comment section. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.